forwards that could be on the move. Could that be the case at Manchester United? We know that they need to sell. Darmish, Rasmus Hojlund, let's start with him. Is he any closer to getting a move away from Manutd?
Not yet, but look, we know AC Milan were interested. They wanted to do a loan with an option. It's understood now that AC Milan couldn't convince Manchester United forward Rasmus Hojlund to join on those current terms because Manchester United and Hojlund, in an ideal scenario, wanted a permanent deal. Now, this may sound like I'm about to contradict myself because of what I'm about to say. Milan, meanwhile, are now trying to close a deal for the Bayer Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface. RB Leipzig, they have been tracking Rasmus Hojlund throughout this transfer window. They have been speaking to Manchester United about a permanent deal. And if a deal can be agreed in the last 12 days with Manchester United, then it will be up to Rasmus Hojlund to decide whether he wants to go. Now, here comes the contradictory bit, because Sky in Italy are now reporting that Napoli are now pushing really hard to try and do a deal for Rasmus Hojlund, and it would be a loan with an option to buy. So not a permanent deal again. However, we think that Hojlund might be more open to that particular deal than the AC Milan offer, because Napoli can offer Champions League football, which AC Milan cannot offer at the moment. Clearly, this would be by the by at the moment, because it would have to be cleared by Manchester United, any kind of deal that Napoli would propose, be it a loan with an option, because we do know that United's preference is to do a permanent deal. They want around £40 million for him, or if it is to be a loan, they would want some sort of permanent element attached to that deal. Initially, Rasmus Hojlund wanted to fight for his place, but he was left out of the squad completely for that defeat on Sunday against Arsenal at Old Trafford. Head coach Ruben Amorim hasn't completely closed the door on Rasmus Hojlund staying, but he has said that he shares the same characteristics as the new striker, Benjamin Sesko, and it is clear, given how the squad has been picked in the first game of the season, that Rasmus Hojlund is going to find his game time limited. Definitely one to keep an eye on in the last 12 days, but it looks like now Napoli are pushing. They've got Romelu Lukaku, remember, who is injured. They don't know how long yet, but they think
so that could be a key thing here.
It could be. It could be months rather than weeks at the moment, which would again imply what would happen if Rasmus Hojlund went and then Lukaku gets fit. Is Rasmus Hojlund going to be back up to Romelu Lukaku? Potentially, yes, but if he goes there, plays really, really well, then Antonio Conte might have a decision to make on his selection.
Okay, interesting. We've got our eyes on that. Hojlund, one of the players that they'd like to move on if possible. Garnacho is definitely in that camp as well.
Yeah, a player that's been muted about leaving Old Trafford over the course of this summer, but as of yet, there's been no firm offer to Manchester United. We know that Chelsea have been in dialogue with Manchester United throughout the course of this summer. It's a little bit of a poker match, really. Who blinks first? Because we know that Manchester United will value Alejandro Garnacho at around £50 million. And they're probably right to say that, because you look at the players that have moved in those kind of positions. Antony Elanga, around £50 million. We know that João Pedro, around £50 million. There are multiple players that are all in that kind of remit. So that's where their price tag comes from. However, Chelsea would rather pay around £25–30 million. They want to, sniff out a deal here. And they believe the longer they leave it over the course of this summer, the greater chance they're going to be able to get the price they want, because they know that Manchester United need to sell as well because of the number of outgoings. Alejandro Garnacho has made it quite clear he has one preference and one preference only, and that's to join Chelsea and move to London. That's what his desire is. If you're asking me and putting me on the spot, I'd probably say Garnacho to Chelsea is probably a deal that happens. However, Chelsea have to be really careful about what they spend this summer, because they have this UEFA business plan, this agreement, that their player purchases do not exceed their player sales. They need to sell more than they spend, and that's where they're caught in a situation. Probably expect this one to rumble right to the wire.
Right, okay.
If you look behind us, there's one other player that we are going to talk about who is in the news as well with regard to departures. It is, of course, Jadon Sancho. Roma, they haven't given up on striking a deal for Jadon Sancho yet. Their head coach, Gianpiero Gasperini, he absolutely loves Jadon Sancho. He is the key driver of this deal. They made an offer worth £20 million did Roma to Manchester United, which I think United will probably agree to in principle. Then it was down to Jadon Sancho himself. However, as it stands, we think Sancho wants to explore other options in the final 12 days. Besiktas and Borussia Dortmund are among a number of clubs who are interested in Jadon Sancho. Besiktas managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but we don't think at the moment that Jadon Sancho wants to go to Turkey. But if we get to the end of this transfer window and he's still a Manchester United player, the Turkish window is actually open for another 11 days. So you'll be sitting here again for another 11 days, maybe talking about Jadon Sancho. Yeah, but again, another one to keep an eye on, a Jadon Sancho situation.
Gut feeling of those three players, Hojlund, Sancho, Garnacho, who leaves first?
Who leaves first?
Yep.
There's only 12 days left, mate.
Who's the closest of those three to leaving Manchester United, do you think?
The one that looks the most likely, but not necessarily going to leave first, is Garnacho,
Right.
as Mark mentioned there. Rasmus Hojlund as well. I think they all will actually get a move before the end of this transfer window.
Yeah, you see that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with Jadon Sancho 1 year left, we know that Manchester United want rid of him. The Hojlund stuff, it feels like it's just a case of where does he go? Leipzig, Napoli, unlikely to be Milan, and Garnacho, Chelsea. It's a marriage made in heaven. It just needs to happen.
Yeah, and they might need to sell a player or two first as well. Right, let's get on to Nottingham Forest, because they've had a really busy last few days, which is exactly what the manager was asking for, wasn't he? Before we get onto the overall business they've done, Douglas Luiz, deal agreed. How close is that to being a proper Nottingham Forest player?
Yeah, just a matter of time now. We know that Juventus and Nottingham Forest have reached an agreement for that man. It's actually initially a deal for a loan that will have...
Let's just bring you some breaking news this morning. Morecambe's new ownership...
Understandably so, yeah. I mean, he's a quality player. We saw it at Borussia Dortmund, and we've seen him that he can do it. And I think he's looking at it and thinking, okay, there's another couple of weeks left of the transfer window. What's the best club that I can go to? Roma, yes, maybe they might still come back in. That still might be a discussion. But Roma's a great club, by the way. So,
yeah.
I can see him there. So I think he's waiting out.
Okay, right, we'll wait and see how that pans out. We seem to be talking. In Italy are interested in signing Rasmus Hojlund. AC Milan sporting director Iglitare said that Rasmus Hojlund is a good option as they push to sign the striker in this window. But, Michael, they are...
After news yesterday of Romelu Lukaku's injury. Now, this is according to our colleagues in Italy. Now, Lukaku could be out for at least 3 months with a thigh problem. I cannot begin to imagine what Antonio Conte is now saying to the Napoli board. But there's a few things we know here now. One is that we didn't know all summer that Rasmus Hojlund's future under Ruben Amorim. He did pretty well in pre-season, Rasmus Hojlund. Yeah. However, doesn't seem to matter anymore. Didn't feature in their final pre-season game against Fiorentina. Didn't feature against Arsenal. So he is part of those players now who aren't required anymore. So now, is it a perfect time for Manchester United? They see interest from Napoli and, of course, from AC Milan. You do feel that he's heading back to Serie A, where we know he's done ever so well in the past.
Yeah, they do. They rate him there, don't they, in Italy? He wasn't part of the matchday squad against Arsenal. I know he said before, I want to stay and fight for my place. But if you're in his position and you see...
I wonder if the conversation has been, no, you're kind of, we need you to move on. If that's the conversation, then he has to move on, for sure. But for me, I think he's a young man, 22. I think he's got so much more to learn. I would do it at Manchester United because I think it's a great place right now with the quality players they've brought in. I think it's a perfect place for him to develop and continue his development.
We're not going to play very much.
The key is people sometimes, yes, you look at playing time, but if Cunha, Mbumo, Bruno Fernandes, Šeško is coming, you've got great players every single day you're learning off. Because sometimes the value is, forget the playing time, the value is, I have 1 year maybe sometimes of, you've got to look at it in terms of my development. If I spend time with these 4 players around here every single day, am I going to be better in 6 months or a year's time? Yes. is that going to be a better value?
With Sancho and what those possible options might be.
This is interesting because we're told that it had nothing to do with personal terms. So does he have another option? We know the Besiktas fans would love to have him. Didn't stay at Chelsea last season. Got the feeling that maybe Manchester United would consider that 20 million bid. We know there's absolutely no future under Ruben Amorim. So a bit of a surprise, I've got to be honest with you, Matt, when I heard that he didn't want to join Roma, but the fact that they're not giving up, so maybe there's a bit more to this over the next few days.
Yeah, just a quick line from you on that, Rob. Do you think Sancho possibly looking at Marcus Rashford's move to Barcelona and thinking, well, if he's going to Barcelona, maybe I can get a big move as well?
Os fretes também economizam meu tempo.
Isso porque a Log possui um sistema de integrações que se conecta com o sistema de gestão RP que eu uso no meu negócio. E também com diversas outras plataformas.
Tá precisando economizar por aí também? Clique em algum lugar da tela que a Log te ajuda.
Tenho 317 mil reais para investir hoje e não sei onde. Compro um imóvel para viver de aluguel ou faço uma carteira de fundos imobiliários? Olha, essa é uma boa pergunta. Isso porque o imóvel físico é um ativo que dificilmente se desvaloriza, mas exige um investimento considerável. Já uma carteira de fundos imobiliários, com essa quantia você pode diversificar bastante. Só que em vez de eu te responder aqui diretamente, eu vou fazer melhor. Eu vou te dar acesso a uma ferramenta que compara exatamente o quanto você pode ganhar com aluguéis de imóveis físicos e com uma carteira de fundos imobiliários. Para você baixar essa ferramenta agora, é só clicar no botão aqui embaixo. Meu nome é Carolina Borges, eu sou chefe de análise e especialista em fundos imobiliários na EQ Investimentos. E foi a minha equipe que desenvolveu essa ferramenta que está à sua disposição hoje. Ela será o primeiro dos 2 presentes que você poderá ganhar clicando no botão aqui embaixo. Essa ferramenta foi pensada para facilitar a decisão de todo investidor que está com liquidez e não sabe qual caminho seguir. Dê só uma olhada. Na coluna esquerda, você digita o valor que tem para investir e o aluguel esperado, e a planilha vai calcular a porcentagem que esse valor representa do imóvel e sua renda